You're listening to Small Business in Small Bites, a podcast designed to help you better understand your customers, your business, and even yourself one easily digestible idea at a time. Now here's John Preston.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the first ever edition of Small Business in Small Bites. The goal of this show is to help business owners and business managers understand how customers make decisions a little better, what kind of customers you need to go for, and finally, how to deal with all the hassles of running a small business. We often get overwhelmed, and so many of those things come into play. Ultimate goal is to help small businesses grow and prosper. We live in a world where the large corporations are often squeezing out the small businesses, and often it is their understanding of marketing practices and how customers think that is giving the larger corporations a big advantage. And I want to use this podcast as a way of helping the small business owner get through. Now, one of the unique things about this is we're going to do it in small bites. I searched the web, and there are literally thousands of podcasts out there on marketing. Most of them are designed for one marketing professional to talk to another marketing professional. And the reason I know this is they're all 45 minutes to an hour long. Now, when you own a small business, the one commodity you run the most short of is time. And most small business owners simply do not have 45 minutes to devote to a podcast to learn a single idea. So we're cutting through all the crap, and we're going to do the ideas in a very short, concise manner, because I know as a small business owner myself, you just don't have time for more than that. So I want to start out today by telling you why this podcast is so important to me and why helping small business is something I take very personally. When I was a kid, my mom and dad quit their jobs and started a travel agency. They learned about the travel, but they didn't really know about running a business. They had to learn as they went. Like most small business owners, they just kind of felt their way through it and hoped for the best. They'd been in business for a couple years, and they were incredibly busy, yet they weren't making any money. And one day they went to a conference in Vegas, and they, at most of these conferences, you learn as much socializing afterwards as you do in the actual sessions. So they're in a bar, and they're talking to some very professional travel agencies. And these agents are talking about the $40,000 around the world cruise they sold, or this mega dream vacation they sold for $60,000 or whatever. And my dad and mom are just really blown away. So after a while, they ask them, how do you sell those big jobs? Because obviously the commissions on those jobs are enormous. And all we can sell are these $199 3-day Bahama cruises and cheap hotels. And the guy looked at him and says, what do you advertise? And he says, well, we advertise the $199 3-day cruises because that's all anybody wants. And the guy looked at him and says, you've got it backwards. What you have done is you've gotten people to think of you as a discount travel agency. So the only people who consider going to your agency are people who want cheap travel. The guys wanting to buy the dream vacations, they look at you as not the place to go for that, because you've branded yourself as the place for cheap vacations. So they came home, completely changed their business model, started advertising the dream, the bucket list items, started focusing on service and providing customers with a knowledge of travel that would help them make good travel decisions. And the business changed entirely. They stopped selling as many cruises, as many vacations, but the ones they sold were much more profitable. So their stress level went down, their workload went down, and their profits went up. And as a result, when the internet started to come along and people started to go to the internet to buy their travel, they were in a much better position to survive it, because the people who went to the internet to buy trips were the ones looking for cheap. And people looking for cheap are very seldom the right people to build your business around. So as a result, their business continued to thrive while other travel agencies failed. And I often think about, what would my life be like if they hadn't had that conversation in that bar in Vegas? If they hadn't had that little bit of education that made the difference between a successful, growing, robust business and one that shut its doors after a few years because it simply wasn't making any money. That one moment changed their business and changed my life. And I just think about, in a world where 20% of the small businesses in the United States fail every year, how many of those business owners just needed that one moment of education that would have made all the difference in the world. So I'm hoping this podcast will give business owners the chance to have that one moment and perhaps have a whole bunch of those one moments. So instead of not surviving or barely getting by, they're able to grow their business into what they originally wanted and what they needed for their families to be successful. Look forward to talking to you on episode 2. Be sure to share this and reach out to your friends and let them know. If you know a business owner, make sure they know about this podcast, because hopefully they'll learn something that will help them succeed.